Hey everybody, John the Other here, obviously. And today I am going to be talking about the content of a video from Bern Chapin, Chapin's Inferno. Now, I've just watched Bern's video, and I'll put a link to that in the low bar. And he's talking about a story out of the UK where a woman who had been broken up with in a fit of jealousy, or maybe not even a fit, but in a jealous act, poured sulfuric acid on her ex-boyfriend who was breaking up with her, basically on the grounds that if she couldn't have him, then nobody would have him. Now, this was not a heat of the moment thing. She researched the effects of sulfuric acid on a human being and then obtained a sufficient quantity of it to throw on him in his sleep. And the gentleman who had the acid thrown on him was horribly mutilated and burned, suffering catastrophic and life-debilitating injuries, and it left him in continuous pain. And after a period of a little over a year, he sought out euthanasia and killed himself because he believed his life was no longer worth living. Now, the woman who threw the acid on him in this horrific attack has been acquitted of murder, although she's been convicted on a lesser charge. And the whole reason I'm talking about this is not to exhibit my outrage at this. I don't think I need to tell you that. But to talk about why we have a court system. Why do governments fund and operate a court system, a law court? Law courts are extremely expensive. They're extremely complicated. They're extremely cumbersome. They're a very large drain on the resources of a national economy. I mean, they're not a drain relative to, say, maintaining a standing military, but they are very expensive and complex to operate. So why do governments operate law courts? Why do we have this formalized system of justice? I'll tell you why. And this is, of course, occasioned by this story. The reason we have this formalized system of justice paid for at public expense through the very lengthy and sometimes tedious and time-consuming process of going through the courts and through investigation and having legal standards and due process and all that great stuff, is that if we don't have that, people will resolve their grievances by murdering each other. So, when we start having a system as we are now developing today in the West, which is that most of the legal activism and the reforms to our law system are in the direction of removing accountability from women. And now, I'm not saying that this woman was let go because there was a permissive law court in the UK, but this story occasioned these thoughts. The reason we in the West developed the law courts, the reason governments operate law courts, is to prevent members of the public from murdering each other in retribution. It is my prediction that we're going to see continued escalation of the removal of accountability from women. We're going to see the laws change to make it more and more difficult to convict women when they commit grievous crimes like throwing acid on a person or murdering a person and so on. And that will continue because we as a society, we now understand that men, when they are grievously mistreated, for example, a woman throws acid on somebody and cripples him, and puts him into debilitating permanent agony, such that that person then ends their life because they can't stand the suffering anymore. More and more accountability is going to be removed from women because we as a society, we know and we understand that the family and friends of men who are brutalized or murdered by women are not going to seek out a woman who does something like that and murder her. We have now a public who is sufficiently pacified, sufficiently, quote, civilized, that in the face of atrocious, despicable acts like throwing acid on somebody, there is very little chance that somebody's surviving relatives or friends are going to seek her out and then kill her in retribution. And that outcome, that possible outcome, is why we maintain, as a society, a law court, a formalized system for resolving mortal grievances. Now, if we don't need to prevent retributive murder, if we end up having a class of people who can be mistreated and they are sufficiently pacified that they will not then seek out resolve of grievance through improvised vendetta or murder or lynch mobs and so on, then there is less and less pressure on our society to continue maintaining a court system for the resolution of these grievances, because you don't have to prevent retributive murder from a class of people who you can mistreat, and we all begin to understand that they can be mistreated, including the members of that group. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Thanks very much for listening, and as always, have a lovely day.